Welcome to Across the Ring. My name is William Mayhem Michael.
And I'm here as well, the scientist, Karl Schroepfer. Our first guest on the show is at Hasbro WWE on Instagram. Hey, Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing very good today.
I know that you got into pro wrestling when you were younger. Um, how old were you when you got into the world of pro wrestling?
My grandfather started showing me wrestling when I was like 6 or 7, and it just kind of enveloped my life. Like I just loved how the matches, the bigger than life talent, and it just kind of sparked the I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely got that. I was the same as you. I was sitting on my grandpa's knee, right? Watching WWF back then. It was probably 1989, so a couple years back, just a couple years back.
Yeah, mine
Um,
was about 87.
yeah, yeah. So that Hulk Hogan era type thing.
Yeah, he brought me in like right when like the Heart Foundation was still the black and blue gear back then, just laying on the floor and he's watching wrestling.
Yeah, I think you guys are a bit older than me. I think my introduction to wrestling was more around the new generation with Bret Hart and all of them. So
Oh, getting
I
into
think
like Attitude Era, WCW,
Yeah.
WWF wars.
yeah, some of that as well. Yeah, I was a 91 baby, so I wasn't quite able to catch the 80s.
Yeah, back when it was hidden that you liked wrestling before everyone's like, "Oh, it's so cool now."
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But it kind of went back and forth, right? Like it wasn't
Yeah.
cool, then it was cool, and now it's not cool all over again.
Yeah, it's
Um,
cycles.
yeah, it definitely cycles.
Well, so who were some of your idols that you were into while you were growing up?
Growing up, I really kind of connected with people like Dynamite Kid, Bret Hart, Tito Santana, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson. The ones that were more of a technical wrestler than I'm big, I slam you. Like ones that like arm
Like
drag,
like your Dean
tickle.
Malenkos.
Like a Dean Malenko or
Yeah,
the Chris that nobody talks about.
yeah. We're not.
Yeah.
We'll say Chris. We'll leave it at that. I
Yeah.
think everybody that would be listening to this is going to know
Yeah.
exactly who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, he was my favorite until that incident. But yeah, I was kind of right there with you as far as idols, but I was really big into like the luchadors as well. Um, like when WCW really started bringing in like the Chris Jericho's, the Psychosis, the Juventud Guerreros, and guys like that, I really enjoyed, even though they have very small spots in WCW. I really enjoyed those, but I enjoyed the technical wrestlers as well.
Yeah. It just brought a new like taste to it. So it gives more people to watch, like the high flyers, the technicos, just helps bring other people together.
With the we can see, in your room you got a lot of memorabilia. With some of those idols, what was like your first shirt or poster or whatever among those idols?
My first shirt I can remember having was this Ultimate Warrior shirt my parents gave me because it pops up as a photo from my parents at a Universal Studios with a Marilyn Monroe lookalike. And I completely forgot I had that shirt until I saw the photo and I went, "Oh, I wish I still had that. It's not going to fit, but I wish I had it."
I could feel that. I could feel that. I think my first WWE, like, well, not even WWE, is WCW, because during the Monday Night Wars, before it really even started, I was a big WCW guy because I always liked the underdog.
Hmm.
WCW, TNA, NWA, I sure I'd like WWF, WWE, whatever we got to call it now. But I was always rooting for the underdog, which my brother was the complete opposite. But my first one, uh, my dad got me a Jericho Holic t-shirt,
Nice.
which was really cool. I wish I still had that. I think I was a size medium now, so that might fit on my hand now, but that's about as far as it's gonna make it. What about you, Carl?
I think my first shirt was actually a TNA Mick Foley t-shirt that I got while at a taping in Universal Studios.
Yeah, I was cleaning out a box and I found a shirt from when I worked for TNA helping with merch. It's a size medium. That's not gonna fit me.
Yeah, see, I didn't even know that you work with merch and TNA. That's pretty cool. I mean, you're pretty well rounded, and I know with all the shows we're gonna do with you, we're gonna kind of explore a lot of that. But that's really cool.
Yeah, it was just like one of those like random fluke. Jeff Jarrett needed someone to help with a booth. I said I'll do it, and that handed me Jeremy Borash's card, and that kind of just started that relationship.
Nice. I remember seeing Jeremy Borash. You know, I think I told you this story, Carl, but my first TNA show, I almost got in a fight with Jeff Jarrett. Um, we were, I was I was down the ramp, like I was in that corner seat right at the ramp and the ring, which is I feel like the best seat in the house. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Oh yeah.
But Jeff Jarrett's coming down the ramp, and he was a heel at the time. And I started screaming. I don't even know what it was. I was screaming at him, and he got up in my face like this close, and he's like, "Shut up, you fat fuck!" and da 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 da. You know, I mean, and we were just screaming at each other. And he's like, "I'll meet you after the show," and I'm like, "Hell yeah, I can kick my own ass. I don't care." You know, I was saying all dumb shit. But yeah, that's really cool. So I know that you got into pro wrestling and started training really young. Like when you got into training in pro wrestling, where did you train and who was your trainer?
Um, I'll kind of roll it back a little bit. Where I put my pro wrestling training is I was a collegiate wrestler because I always heard people say, "Do this; it's gonna help you when you actually get to the point of working out in the rings.
Mm-hmm.
You learn your body, you learn everything else." So I started collegiate wrestling when I was 15,
Okay.
and about 16, 17 started to jump into the ring side, and
Mm-hmm.
about 19 was full force because in the US 18 is the legal age to be able to do it. A lot of people would go down to Mexico where I think it's 16 or 15
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of pop over the border. Like I lived in San Diego, so it was easy, drive down, drive back, try
So
to figure out stuff.
when you say that you were doing collegiate wrestling, was that through like a club or was that through like your high school or?
It started like junior high, then high school, just stuff like that. And pro wrestling was kind of the naughty word in the room. Like
Absolutely.
if they
Right.
even, I mentioned to my coach, I'm gonna go meet Kurt Angle, and he's just like, "Oh, what is he doing?" And I told him, and he gave me the look that made me go, "I'm running laps, aren't I?"
I definitely get it. That's kind of like the whole room though when you get into collegiate wrestling.
Yeah. The thing that always baffle me is we get to the end of season, and then they'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna put on professional wrestling matches inside of here." And I would watch them out of the corner of my eye and go, "You're doing that wrong, by the way, but stop."
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, another thing with I think that a lot of wrestlers are doing now, they're getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because
Yeah.
that is kind of the same aspect. You really get to know your body and what movements kind of fit well. However, MMA, as we have noticed, doesn't always
Mhm.
cross over well into pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Not going to
I've
mention any names there.
Yeah,
Ronda Rousey.
I've seen I've seen some where I just
Mm,
watch them going, "Oh, he's gonna hit you in the face." I don't know what he tells you, but he's gonna and then they come back broken nose, just like
mhm.
told you.
Real shoot wrestling there.
Like, oh come on.
No, so yeah, you said you talked about, high school, middle school doing this wrestling and you transferred over to, getting into wrestling school
Hmm.
once you turned 18. You know, where'd you end up going and with that how was that transition going from, doing more of like a amateur style wrestling to, moving into, the world of professional wrestling?
I will say doing the collegiate was such a big help to it because you're already conditioned for stamina for like long matches. So I started kind of in San Diego, but I just kind of whenever I get a chance to jump in a ring or go to work on another show, I always picked everyone's brains. So I've had the chance to like work out with the Armstrongs, Marty Jannetty, Buff Bagwell,
Oh, that's
just
very cool.
even Umaga. The first time he got let go, I was able to work with him some. It was just whoever I could get the knowledge from, I would
Mhm.
try.
So
And
was this during like the like mid late 1990s?
it was towards like the 97, 98. The Marty stuff was a little
Yeah.
bit in the 2000s. That's going to be a fun
Mhm.
story down the road.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was just whoever I could pick brains on or just get in to figure out what is I could do something better or what's wrong or
Right.
what do you think of that? And then getting torn down, but then getting built up because, hey, this is it can be better next time.
Yeah, because that's what it's all about. You need that structural like criticism, right? You need to
Yeah.
know what you're not doing correctly so you can fix it to get
Yeah.
better. When you were training, and I know that you said you won't mention your trainer's name, and I know with a lot of pro wrestlers that's actually the thing because a lot of not so great stuff happen. I think a lot of us have heard some stories, especially with NXT when it got around. Um,
It
but
Mine is more on the side of you heard people say if you're going to get trained by somebody who has done something in the business.
yeah,
It would just happen to be, oh, here's a local guy. I can get into this.
hmm
I think I spent more time sitting on an apron watching them drink beer than actually learning anything. So it's just one of those, I'm going to go to someone who wants to put in time and stuff like that.
I gotcha. So when you did get into pro wrestling, what was your first ring name?
When I first got in, my name was Sugar Sean Douglas. For some reason, I took Shane Helms and Shane Douglas, stuck them together. That lasted about 2 days before someone told me pick something completely different. You're a dumbass. And my signature even looked like Shane Douglas's for 1 second. And they're like,
Oh my
stop
god,
that.
stop it! Yeah.
Yeah. And it
Oh
was
my
more
goodness.
of we'll pick you a name. And then they gave me a vampire name of Lucian, which that could have been the most far away thing. I was just like, this isn't working.
Yeah,
And then it
yeah,
slowly transitioned into what my final name was, which was Luke Michaels, which was more of me, more just my kind of punk rebellious side, just what draws better out of me because it's a lot easier to be yourself than to be somebody else.
yeah. That's who you connected with, right?
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
trying to say we're gonna have Santino Morella beat Brock Lesnar. Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, if you're looking at the current product, when you bring that up, that's like when we had Kofi Kingston after he won WrestleMania, and then he had to fight Brock Lesnar, and then that was a total squash job, which
Yeah.
I don't think should ever happen.
That's one of the things I kind of think is missing is the what just happened moment where
Mhm.
all of a sudden someone random who we don't even think would be the world champion, something happens and you're like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Oh, kind of like when we thought that Santino Marella won the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're like, what just happened? And then nope, it didn't. It didn't.
Yeah, I remember like going to
Yeah,
live events and you would see like Legion of Doom come out as the tag champs and you're going, but you weren't the champs. Oh, they won them last night in Laredo, Texas. And
yeah,
you're like, oh, that's
during
great.
a house show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just kind of kept it interesting and fun. Where if you're like, oh, I fell asleep. Well, you missed something.
right, right. So, I know that we talked a little bit before, about you going to Mexico at a young age, for pro wrestling. What was that like for you?
Very hush hush. Like I had a friend who he had his license before me, and it was our drive down. So you would get down to the border, you would cross over, and then hopefully try to take a taxi to the arena in Tijuana to go see shows, and then try to make it all the way back and then back over. And it over first couple times you're kind of like quiet, keep your hands to yourself,
Hmm.
don't say anything, and you see lucha masks and magazines everywhere, and you're like, I gotta pick that up, and it's no, don't do that. And it's just over time it gets easier, and you're like, oh, walk through, back and
Yeah,
forth. It's one of the things I kept trying to go down there, but the language barrier would be an issue sometimes. So I
Yeah.
started watching, like I would come back with VHS tapes and watch and watch and watch, or if people had training tapes, I'd watch it and just kind of go through their routines.
I got you. I got you. Yeah,
Are any
that's
of those
pretty cool.
are any of those tapes that you're talking about memorable? You know, that were like these really stood out for you?
I remember getting one that was from Rey Mysterio Senior. It was an old VHS tape, and didn't understand what they're saying, but I could get through. And I had a friend who was like, they're talking about how hard that actual mat is, and I found out that it's the same mat they've had for years, and it's petrified, so it's like stone. And I'm like, I am so glad I didn't go on that way.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't even imagine. That's like going straight to the concrete floor, but in a regular wrestling match.
It was ones where I've talked to people who've gone through that ring, and they go bumping on cement was so much nicer.
What'd you say is some of your crazy experiences during your time in Mexico?
Um, just the a lot of it is more of the stuff that you would let as we get used to just like hanging out and talking to people. Oh yeah, I'll go do this with them. Where that's not a good idea in hindsight, and it might be something where as you're walking out, they're trying to sell you something, and your wallet gets stolen, or you go to cut down an alley, and I've heard of people who try to cut down an alley and their friend got stabbed, stuff like that, and it's police, just all different random stuff that I'm like, all right, that's why I'm just going from point A to point B. There's no detours, and
Right.
just you as you go, you learn more, and you're like, all right,
Mhm.
I understand why not to go over onto that side and do this. But
Right.
it's an experience because you see wrestling from a completely different perspective, where you have a building full of people and it's language barrier, but you're watching some of the best talent in the world, and you're trying to get whatever you can from them, and why is it doing this, and you see like how masks and stuff are done, and
Yeah,
you realize how much more for those talents that it is to wear that, and how
that's definitely on the bucket list, along with going to the Tokyo Dome. That's something I've
yeah,
always wanted to do.
that's one too. Like I've always wanted to do it, and it's like I'm gonna do it this year, and then something happens, and I can't go. But I know there's are companies that do like full travel packages, which is nice.
Yeah,
So it's like if get your flight, hotel, everything else.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. You know, have it all set up, you know, kind of cohesively put together for a trip, make it nice and
Hmm.
quick in and out. You know, I think that's kind of the way to go there, as opposed to trying to figure out all these, you know, foreign websites or whatever to try to get on top of making a trip out there.
Yeah, and I remember the one guy who used to do them had friendship with a bunch of the wrestlers, so he'd take you to like the wrestlers' restaurants and their stores. Like he'd give you an all around. Like he would take the at like WWE does their access, but he
hmm
would make it a New Japan thing where you met all the wrestlers, but at like you go to like Suzuki's store or Shibata's restaurant, stuff like that. And I've always heard
That
people say it was great.
yeah. That's definitely interesting. And
yeah.
I know that we talked before, because we all three met on the Jericho cruise,
Yes.
in 2023. It was a good time. Um, but when we were talking, I know that you said that you got signed to the WCW power plant. Can you tell our listeners what that was like for you?
That was one of the weirdest things because it was, hey, we'd like you to come up to the power plant. We're going to do all this. Hey, this is when we want you to come. WWE just bought WCW. Power plant does not exist. It was towards the very end, like, oh, I can't wait to do this. Getting ready. Let's go. And then, yeah, does the bill, we're not doing this anymore. And from some of the people I've talked to, towards the end, the power plant was not a good place to be. It would
hmm
be a different building a couple times where, oh no, we're not here. We're 5 miles down to do this. And I kind of wish I could have gone through just to go through their training,
Yeah,
but I don't know where that would have gone from there. Like if it would have been a sit at home for a long time or And the more you find out about it, you're like, oh, not everyone there is under contract to WCW. They're paying to be there. It's just stuff like that.
Holy crap! I
How,
didn't even know they were doing that.
Yeah, a lot of it was originally it was like a wrestling school. So people would come, sign up, and then go through it. And then they would have people like, hey, we're interested in you. We want to bring you up for developmental. You'll come here and you'll train. And I think some of the talent that made it to WCW wasn't talent that they had originally looked out for, that just showed up to be a wrestler. I think Van Hammer might have been one of them.
how far into the commitment were you? Like, had you moved out there, or
It was getting ready to, like, it was one of those, hey, we want you to come. We'll send you the stuff. A couple weeks went by, month went by. Hey, what's going on with this? Oh, we got you. We got you. We don't exist anymore. A
wow,
lot of, yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who've been through stuff where it's, hey, we've gotten a contract sent to you. It's coming out next week. They never get it. They never get it. 3 months later, oh, we'll get back with you in a little bit, and just
right,
back and
kind of
forth.
giving you kind of the runaround?
Yeah, like, hey, we want you, but we're not ready to like kind of do stuff. It was during the time when they were trying to just get all the talent that they could to hopefully block other companies from having them and stuff like that.
Right. It almost sounds kind of like in like the corporate world when you hear about like hiring freezes and stuff like that, where recruiters will be calling up people trying to get them jobs, and then, oh well, hang tight, we need a budget or we need this, and then all of a sudden it just kind of falls through.
Part of me wishes I could have gotten at least the paperwork and then got told we're not doing this, so I could have it as like, here, this is what it looks like. Because I love seeing contracts from talent that have never gone through, and you look at it and go, oh, I'm so glad I didn't do that, because I'd be
Right.
making less now than I do working at a grocery store, stuff like
Right.
that.
Right. Yeah, because I know back in them days when you were first starting out, it was you had to work another job just to survive.
Oh, I was always told 3 years starting, and then maybe you'll get some stuff. I mean, I've driven to shows and gotten a hot dog and a handshake. It's the running joke in wrestling is a hot dog and a handshake. Oh, drive 400 miles. Here's a Coke. And you're like, all right, there's 4 of us in the car. We
Yeah.
need more than this. And it's just where your determination comes in. Like, are you still willing to do this before you can actually get money?
Different, small promotions like that end up, not having the funds or whatever it is to be able to, pay wrestlers like that. You end up getting something, like you said, like a hot dog. Uh, After an interaction like that, is that, something where you kind of take that promotion off your list of, guys that you're going to work with, especially, early on, or do you just kind of go, wherever the next match is?
It's when you first start, you're trying to get as much mat time as you can, wherever you can. So they might be the one that constantly wants to bring you in. Well, I'll take the mat time until it gets to the point where, hey, if you want me to bring me again, you got to give me money. There are still some promoters that owe me money that their companies are no longer in business. I know I'm never going to see that, but it gave me the mat time. It's not to say it's like a kick in the nuts. Like, you're like, all right, cool. I'm going to go beat myself up and then drive 3 hours back home. And I had a hot dog. That was it. Hot dog's not putting gas in my tank.
Yeah.
Right.
But it also was at a time where we were still on VHS and the internet wasn't as popular as it is now. So to work another show would literally have a talent from them being like, hey, are you free this day? Can you come? Sure. Or let me send my VHS tape out. Let me see if I can get 3 VCRs so I can take matches from this company, this company, this company, put it on a cassette. Where did my cassette go?
And
Stuff like that.
I remember I thought when I was young that I might get into pro wrestling, and I had a VHS camera, and that's what I was recording on as well. Me and my friends got real big into backyard wrestling. Do you remember those VHSs?
Oh, I remember those. And starting, I had some friends who we had a trampoline league.
Oh yeah, just like the Hardys, huh?
Oh, not. I wish it was like the Hardys.
Oh, the Hardys really expanded on that. I think that's really how they got their foot in the door for WWF at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, each people have their own ways to getting here,
Mhm.
but it's some we kind of go, oh, don't do that. But it's like, can't really, don't try this at home. We know you are, but
Right. I remember I was in a match with my good friend Robbie, and he hit me with a chair, and blood started gushing out of my ear, and I went deaf. I'm pretty sure he busted my eardrum at that time. Because it wasn't protected chair shots. We didn't know what that was.
yeah,
That was we were like, we saw pro wrestling on TV. We think we can do this. But fast forward to now, I did go to the Arizona Pro Wrestling and try it out, and that's way different.
oh yeah,
And
yeah. I've come across a lot of people that will join a school and they'll be there for like 2-3 days and then go, this is not what I thought it was, and gone.
yeah, it's hard. It's
And
hard.
then
It's no
yeah,
joke.
or you get the one guy in there who comes in and your first thought is, oh, he's not gonna make it, and then you're like, he's the only one that graduated from this school. Good for him.
Good for him. Yeah.
But it also teaches you like life skills. Like I have friends who their kids are rowdy before bed. They're like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, Hindu squats.
Yeah.
And we did it once to my niece. Anytime I say that word, she goes, I'm going to bed.
I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Well, Carl, you got anything to add? Any more questions?
We're getting down to the wire here. I think we got to save some of these for the next one.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I'm thinking. So, if you guys liked what you heard on this show, I ask that you please tune in again. We are across the ring. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, TikTok, pretty much as many social profiles or programs as we can be. And we're also looking at Spotify, Apple, and everything for our actual audio for podcast. Anything else you got to add?
No. Tune in for more. We'll be picking this up with the next episode. If you liked, where the story is going right now, it's only gonna get more interesting from here.